والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
Get guided.
Abdulaziz Abdul Rahim, you must be watching me through Guideus TV.
Do we need Guideus TV?
Of course, all of us need guidance. We ask for guidance 25 times a day. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim as Muslims and the rest of humanity, of course, guidance is the most precious thing. They need it. Get guided with Guideus TV.
Get guided.
You can also download the app to your smartphone. Available for iPhones from the App Store, for Android on Google Play. And now Guideus TV is available on Roku. Get guided with Guideus TV. Here are some ways to get Guideus TV. Via satellite on Galaxy 19 FTA. At this satellite frequency, transponder rate 5, frequency 11836 MHz, polarity vertical, symbol rate 20770, FEC 3/4, channel ID, guideus TV. You can also download the app to your smartphone. Available for iPhones from the App Store, for Android on Google Play. And now Guideus TV is available on Roku. Get guided with Guideus TV.
And we're coming to you almost live from our studios right here in Southern California. And we've got something really big prepared for you tonight. Yes, that's right. We have our doctors with us. And let's introduce them first and foremost. And we'll start with Dr. Adol, all the way from Tampa, Florida. MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How's everything in Tampa, doctor? How's everything going?
Very peaceful, alhamdulillah. You know,
and I'm assuming that's a good thing, right?
Yes, that's a very good.
MashaAllah, yeah. MashaAllah. All right, and I think we have another doctor with us tonight, all the way from St. Louis, Missouri. If I can get him to say something so it'll switch to him.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
There we go. Assalamu alaikum, doctor. How are you? MashaAllah. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. MashaAllah. How's everything?
Well, can't complain. It is much better, much warmer than minus 3 or 5 degrees that we had. Now it was 56 degrees today. I can't complain, you know. It just feels like Florida to me. How's the weather like over in Florida?
Alhamdulillah, you know, early in the morning, it's a little chilly, 50, 49, 50, but right now, like 76, 78, so it's very pleasant.
Yeah, okay. We're suffering with 83 degrees weather over here. Oh.
If you have to choose, Sheikh, which one do you want to go? 40 or 84?
I'll just sit here while I make the decision. Yeah. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. Well, what have we got planned for tonight, Dr. Adol?
I think I had this from last week. We never had a chance to go over it. So in the first half, I have a couple of minutes on the cigarettes and alcohol addiction and the impact in the U.S. And then hopefully in the second one, we'll have a minute or two about heart disease still.
About the addiction to the various things. I would like to start it off, set the tone for all of our folks at home, whether you're Muslim or not Muslim. I would like for you to share this so that people can get a perspective of what Islam is teaching us all about on these subjects, about health, about our bodies, about our minds, and of course about our faith. These things are very critical to understand from the source. And just like we have the doctors on tonight, if you have a medical issue, you don't go over to the Uber driver, and you don't go over to the guy that's polishing shoes, and you don't go to the captain of the airplane. You go to a medical doctor because that makes sense. And in the same way, we would like to refer to the doctors tonight. They are Muslims, and they're absolutely qualified in every aspect of the medical field, but at the same time, they're also qualified in everything about Islam. We check them out before we put them on the air. So here we go. Now, we're going to talk about addiction, and I'm going to be putting up some pictures from our website, which is called Search for Islam. And then I'll go from there. Whenever they mention a topic, I'll click on that. Then it'll take me to one of our 4,100 websites, and we can get some images from that. I'm not going to put up the articles because there's no benefit in that unless the doctor is actually reading from that article, but I will put up some of the images. And so let's get started with that right now. Here's Dr. Ado in Tampa, Florida, telling us about our health.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate that intro. Well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly is telling in the Quran, kullu halal tayyibat. You eat and drink halal, obviously, that's non-contaminated, no pork, no carcinogens or cancer-producing substances, and no altering, substances that will change the composition of the food, and tayyiban, that will make you healthy. And Islam is about total wellness, whether you eat and drink. And then, by the way, don't do excessive. Kulu washrabu wa la tusrifu. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala love everything in moderation and telling us that. So don't go to the excess. Don't go in indulgence, and don't go into, binging, eating, binging, and things like that. So eat healthy, have a healthy life, and then don't do excesses. And, things that are prohibited, clearly from the Quran, that will do a lot of damage, alcohol, gambling, and then, of course, smoking with all its types, whether it's cigarettes or vaping or hookah or all of them together is, you will see and going through the statistics. And Dr. Sultan will carry on the psychological part of the addiction. So hopefully between those two, they'll be able to identify the issue and the magnitude, and then hopefully do something about it and get you back to where Allah, the Creator, has ordered us, Muslims and non-Muslims alike, to stay away from self-harm by ingesting these toxic and harmful materials. So cigarette smoking in the U.S., it actually kills more than almost 500,000. Just like coronavirus right now, we reached 500,000 every year. There's 500,000 Americans die due to smoking-related illness. It cost about a bill of $300 billion from all the illnesses related to smoking, including heart disease, including cancer, strokes, peripheral vascular disease, and you name it. It does not leave anyone who has not taken smoking or have all the other related smoking activities like the hookah, the vaping, and that will obviously get people into the depressed immune systems, getting into a lot of health problems, and 25 cancers, and really depressed immune system to the points where people get repeated infections and ending up culminating in death. On the other side, we're talking about now switching gears to alcohol. And between the two of them, they have similar proximity, that anything that comes in touch with either alcohol or tobacco, it causes cancer and it damages. So you go from the beginning where it is starting from the lips, the mouth, the tongue, the throat, the larynx, the pharynx, or the food pipe. It goes into all the way to the stomach and the lung, and everything that touches, it causes cancer. So we have, cancer of the mouth, cancer of the lips, cancer of the esophagus, which are devastating, cancer of the lung, cancer of the stomach, and it goes on and on and on, and colon and so on. So, in addition to the other devastating effects on the heart and the vasculature, the entire arterial tree of the body by clogging it and causing hardening of the arteries, like we demonstrated in a previous model. Now for alcohol, according to 2019 survey, now we have increased, folks that are early life in the teenage that they actually binge up to 69, almost 70% do binging of alcohol, especially around the holidays. And we have seen and noted that, and it doesn't come alone. Usually, alcohol in ingestion in excess and heavy intake will come along with some sort of smoking, whether cigarettes or vaping or marijuana or other drug abuse, including opioid and cocaine and so on. So it's really like a lethal combination of all these toxic materials all combined together. And the people who are getting younger, who are actually involved in binge drinking and heavy alcohol use, and that will lead to devastated effects on highway accidents, like on domestic violence, like in the body. The alcohol leads to elevated blood pressure, elevated cholesterol and triglycerides, so it leads clogging the arteries. It damages the liver. It damages the brain, so people lose function of parts of the brain, and especially when they get drunk and they fall, they may actually have bleeding in the head that will lead to seizures and further deterioration. And there are some really emergencies that lead to the emergency visits. That in 2014 there was 47% of cases as seen in the ER, almost 210,000 alcohol-related emergency room visits. And it does contribute to at least about a quarter of ER visits, along obviously with opioids, and it's mostly in men that dies of it. But recently with the pandemic, we have seen a surge in young ladies, going into the bottle and going on to alcohol and drinking because of extreme stress or panic, and they just go straight to the bottle, or a sense of isolation and depression. And they both seem to go hand in hand, the tobacco and alcohol, as a part of this self-destruction, if you would. So there's definite advanced liver diseases related to alcohol ingestion, and again, a very big bill of $249 billion in healthcare expenditure, doing on all the things that related to alcohol and alcohol-related disease. And it's happening everywhere, and it's happening underage drinking. People who go out and get access to drinks and then get used to it, and then under peer pressure, unfortunately, do it. And then I'm saying this to everybody, Muslims and non-Muslims alike. Anybody who consumes alcohol, they're going to like self-destruction in a head-to-toe kind of a manner. And unfortunately, the use of heavy alcohol intake is increasing with the pandemic, which will lead to impaired immune system, which will lead to further, worsening or destruction of what's left of the immune system. So people ultimately end up dying with pneumonias or other, super added infections, or they can die from motor vehicle accidents or homicides or accidental, death from fall or burns or drowning just from alcohol. And also some will end up with depression and suicide. In summary, alcohol is a toxin. It destroys the body. And it also hurts the moms and the babies. Now, the babies are born to alcoholic moms or moms who smoke. They are going to have, it's called fetal alcohol disorder, and that will carry on for the rest of their life. So they're not only harming themselves, but they're harming their offsprings and generations to come. So if we know, and after all this, really warning statistics about the impact of both smoking and alcohol. We should have a strategy. And for Muslims, Ramadan is coming, so it's kind of chance to really get off and abstain from all bad habits. And for everybody else, do not let a day go without having a plan to decrease the amount. Whatever you can do. You can, if you're smoking a pack a day, make it a half a pack a day, then quarter pack, then 10 cigarettes, 5 cigarettes, and then within a specific time, like 2 weeks or something, you should be down to 0. I've done this with a lot of my patients over decades, and they have don't ever give up on anybody, even if it's a 4-pack or 5-pack a day for 30, 40 years, and still successfully can take off, and they'll be fine, and they wish they would have stopped earlier, at least to stop any further damage and stabilize whatever defense mechanism that the body can get a break and then vitalize and to be able to be strong enough to counter all the invading organisms, including coronavirus and others. So I hope that kind of sums it up. Stay away from alcohol, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, stay away from alcohol and gambling, because their risk and harm outweigh any potential benefit. So the bottom line is, if like everything we do in medicine, it's a benefit risk ratio. If some more risks than the benefits, don't do it. If there's more benefits than the risks, then absolutely go for it. And that's how we make our decisions on procedures, therapies, and we go where the evidence is that it will help the patient, and stay away from things that will harm the patient. So hopefully, with the Heart Month that we're trying to get these things clear in the head, we can save hundreds and hundreds of thousands of avoidable deaths related to both alcohol as well as tobacco abuse.
MashaAllah. All right, now let's ask Dr. Sultan if he would be so kind as to give us some of the insight into the brain, the area of what's happening with us in our minds while we're doing this.
This is a very good question. That why people get addicted to various things. Like, for example, a 70-year-old man smoking, his 5-year-old grand or great-grandchild can say, "Grandpa, are you smart enough to smoke? What's wrong with you? Haven't you 70 years taken and you're not learned that it harms your body?" And logic is not going to work on him. Why? Why it is the logic is not going to work on him? Similarly, an alcoholic, you tell him it's bad for you. Why doesn't it work? We have to understand the real nature of this is not psychological. If you're a stupid guy that you don't know alcohol is bad, you're a stupid guy that tobacco is bad. No, that is not the thing. This is a physiological phenomenon of addiction. If we do not understand this physiological phenomenon of addiction, we can never get rid of this addiction. So I'm going to talk about the physiological basis for this addiction. Same way, let me give you a few examples. People know, there are people who are sugarholics, have a lot of sugar. There are people who are chocoholics. There are people who are alcoholics. All of them have the same basis for that, and that is addiction phenomenon. See, addiction has, there are other people, you will see that, there's I got to have my coffee. I can't go without it. It gives me a headache. So I drink coffee. If I don't, oh my God, all my day is ruined. All these things appear apparently unrelated, but they have all related bases. This I'm going to explain to you. All these addictions, bad things we're talking about, addiction has two phases. One is the stimulative phase. Why does person smoke or drink? Because it gives them a little uplift, because after repeated exposure to alcohol, which may have started as a social event, eventually it gets into the addiction phase, in which when you have your addiction like alcohol, you feel better. You see, when the alcohol level or the caffeine level comes down, you start feeling nervous or jittery, or feeling sometimes missing inside me, or just downright depressed. You have your addiction, you feel better. So now you have learned over a period of time that if you have your addiction, tobacco or coffee or alcohol, whatever, you can be relatively good at conversating each other and going on and doing your daily business. But as the addiction goes worse, you need more and more alcohol and more you're addicted, you get to that high level of feeling better. Eventually, it gets down so low that no matter how much of your addiction you have, whether it's alcohol or whether it is caffeine, you cannot get into that relatively symptom-free phase. So at that point, the person may come and say, Doc, I got headaches for 5 years, and we know that he gets caffeine withdrawal headaches. Well, the problem did not start at the age of 5 years. It started, I'll ask the question, at what age did you started drinking tea or coffee on a regular basis? The person may say, well, my teen years. So, and he is 50 years old. So the problem started about 35 years ago, did not start 5 years ago. 5 years ago was the time when and no matter how much addiction he took, he could not get into that phase. So now coming down to alcohol. So what is the real nature of alcohol? You'll be shocked the statement I'm going to make, and then I'm going to explain to you. Nobody is addicted to alcohol. I repeat it, nobody is addicted to alcohol. Person is addicted to the foods from where the alcohol is derived at. Therefore, let's say that there is a beer drinker. You see, you can give him equivalent amount of wine or vodka or some other hard liquor, equal amount. He will not get the same stimulatory response or same sense of well-being or same satisfaction as he will get from the beer. Why? Because beer is derived from various grains and wine is derived from grapes. Therefore, he will not get the same. Similarly, a wine drinker, equivalent amount from other alcohols, will not get him to the same level of satisfaction. So people, when they get addicted to alcohol, I'm just taking one example, that they get addicted to the same brand or same kind of alcohol, there can be a multiple alcohol addiction, but that is the real nature. Therefore, we have to address it on the physiological level. So how do we address on a physiological level? It is okay to tell an alcoholic, don't drink alcohol. And he may very well not drink alcohol. But you see, what happens is that, as I said, the person is not addicted to alcohol, is addicted to the foods from where alcohol is derived. For example, let's take the example of a beer. It has got yeast in there. It has got various grains, corn and other grains in there. Therefore, when you tell the person to quit drinking alcohol, you have to also tell him all the foods from where that particular form of alcohol is derived at. Because if you do not, what you're doing is you're having that food in their system, which is at a lower level than what alcohol. See, there's also a very interesting concept. If food are addicting. That's why you got chocoholics, sugarholics, and stuff like that. But which foods are more addicting than the others? Very interesting question. The food that is more readily absorbable is more addicting than the food that is less easily absorbable. You see. So, for example, sugar is more absorbable than like carbohydrates. So you'll find more sugarholics than carbohydrates. Same with proteins are less easily absorbed, so people are not addicted to meats, you see. And then the fats come on the bottom, which is hardly absorbed at any rate, so they are not addicted. So now as we're going, this is called the addiction pyramid. So as the food gets more and more readily absorbable, it becomes more and more addicting. Tobacco, caffeine is far more, I'm sorry, tobacco, nicotine is far more addicting than alcohol if you see on the pyramid. So coming down to the therapy. So the point in here is you have to tell them not only get off alcohol, but also avoid the food from where the alcohol is derived at. Otherwise, that addiction keeps them in the withdrawal phase. And people, although they may quit alcohol, but sooner or later they're more likely to relapse and go back into that same phenomenon. Now let's talk about how does food industry make fool out of people, and how tobacco industry make fools out of that, and how tobacco industry makes profit out of that. Okay, fine. Okay, so now tobacco company has come up with the Nicorette and gum patches and other things for them to, so okay, don't quit, but have this Nicorette gum. Well, the point in here is that when you have the Nicorette gum, although that amount of tobacco is gone, is very little amount now, but since it is a little amount, it will maintain your addiction for a long period of time. Now I give you a quick fix to this, that how can you overcome addiction, alcohol or tobacco and stuff like that. You cannot cut it down, okay? When you cut it down, the addictant remains in your body and forces you to have more and more in the system to get to relatively symptom-free phase. Therefore, in order to, and this is the secret, which I'm going to share right now. The secret is these addictants stay in the system no more than 4 or 5 days. If, for example, you quit smoking, not you, but people who are smoking, if they quit completely, they will be miserable. Okay, they can be miserable. So I tell my patients, okay, when you're miserable during that time, do whatever you want to do. You want to go out and run and jump and do whatever you want to do, hit your head against the wall, but don't have your addictant like tobacco. So in 4 or 5 days, get out of your system. So now from this, if I can draw this line as a even keel line, and because of the addictant is down in your body and you're in the withdrawal phase, irritable, miserable, craving, want to have that, if you quit, it gradually in 4 days come on an even keel. Now you feel so much better, so much improved health, improved breathing, improved sinuses, general sense of well-being, energy. All those things are better because you cut it down just like that. If you try to slowly cut it down, it's spent in the system and gives you addiction. So this is the most important aspect of breaking addiction, that you just cut it off, the addictant and all the other sources that will be in your diet or in your environment. And this is the key to successfully, within a few days, break your addiction.
I agree with you, Dr. Sultan, and I have successfully had a lot of patients cold turkey. They just quit smoking cold turkey, and they're the one who did very well. And for us, Allah gave that opportunity in Ramadan to, get rid of smoking. That's an opportunity for anybody who has this, habit, to get rid of it in Ramadan, and then or get rid of it once and for all, never ever go back to it, inshallah.
Well, I think about this cold turkey. I like turkey any way it's served, so cold or hot, turkey is a good thing. We're going to take this short break, and guys, we'll be right back with you right after this little break to remind us why Guidus TV is important to all of us. Stay tuned, stay guided. We'll be right back right after this. Can you imagine? It's our 10th anniversary. Guidus TV on the air for 10 years already. Wow. And we want to keep going and growing. And how you can do that? Join us. Be part of what we are doing with Recite on TV, Bridge to Faith, Simple Reminders with Abu Hafsa, all of these great programs and more coming to you 24 hours a day. No commercials, no advertising. Just pure Islam with Quran every hour, with reminders throughout the day what the Hadith teaches. These programs are the only collection coming to us here in America from America, and you can be part of it. Guide US TV. Keep it on, keep it going, keep it growing. Stay guided with Guidus TV. And we're back, guys. That didn't take long. I would like for you to support Guidus TV because this really is going to be the month that'll determine a lot of things for us. Yeah, we're on the air for another 5 months after this month closes out, and I'm really happy about that. But there are some other things we'd like to expand just a little bit. So if you'll help us, then we're ready to help you guys too with what we do. All right? Okay, let's go back to our story in progress right now. We're talking about addictions. We're talking about diseases. We're talking about taking care of our body, our health. And what more important than the heart, because the heart is the generator for everything. Now, we know we got to have a mind, but the best mind in the world can't operate without a little blood going up to it, carrying that oxygen up there. So let's talk about the heart. And to do that, we have a heart doctor, cardiologist. Yeah, I want to say a big word. Okay, we have Dr. Adel all the way down in Tampa, Florida. Go ahead, doctor. Tell us what you got. Show us it. What is it?
Okay,
Hold it up.
We wanted to honor the Heart Month and share with the folks everywhere about the importance of being educated about the heart disease and how to identify it, how to help getting it diagnosed and to give the prevention and the treatment for it. So if you recall from last time, we had this diagram where it shows the heart inside the arteries where the plaque being formed, and it kind of builds up to the point where you have plaque buildup. And the plaque buildup, depending on the degree of that, whether it's, it's called modifiable risk factors. So these are risk factors that will lead to heart disease that we can control, like high blood pressure, like diabetes, like high cholesterol, like physical activity, like obesity, like tobacco, like alcohol. All these are modifiable risk factors that we could do something about it, and we can help to stop further progression of this plaque develop. And when the plaque develop, it really can develop head to toe in the carotid arteries up here in the neck that cause stroke, in the heart called heart disease with heart attack, and in the legs, for instance, lower extremity, where people have bad circulation, and sometimes people end up losing their feet or legs because of lack or absence of circulation due to clogged arteries from so many years of combined risk factors being accumulated mostly with smoking. So the manifestations of that it varies from men to women. Men, they could present with the typical chest heaviness, tightness, usually after activity or after having a heavy meal or even after intimate relationships. And then it kind of waxes and wanes. When you do exertion, it comes on, and when you rest, it goes away. This is a typical textbook for men, and usually in the center of the chest, it can go up to the jaw, to the arms, to the back, and to the left arm. It can be accompanied with shortness of breath. People, become a little, huffing and puffing, and they can break out in sweat. They become nauseous, and these symptoms are continuously presented, or it happens at rest, then it turns from what we call stable coronary disease into unstable coronary disease, where a possibility of a plaque fracture, like I showed in this panel, and a blood clot forming with this blood, rupture that can occlude the artery and prevent blood flow, and thus causing the next step, which will be chest discomfort and more persistent chest discomfort and pain. In females, in ladies, they have a very tricky and untraditional way of presenting. Usually it happens with fatigue, sometimes with the decreased energy level, sometimes they can be a little tired. So the vague symptoms, sometimes you don't want to brush it off, because heart disease in women is more malignant than heart disease in men. Although men, it's easy to figure out because it's obvious and it's easy to see it and to care of it. In women, they have to really go and do further investigation to identify it and fix it. There are some parameters that you go with first with an EKG, electrocardiogram, which is a service snapshot of the heart at one specific moment in time. You can or cannot see some changes that will, kind of give you a tip into what's happening. And sometimes, about 50% of people who have heart attacks, the EKG could be normal, but then there's a second parameter, which is a blood test. And then when people go and end up in emergency room, they say, "Doc, I went and I had my ER doc kind of tested me for troponin, Troponins. Troponin is a parameter or a blood test that will detect heart injury or a heart attack with this troponin, Troponion, troponin. And it can be sometimes heart related, and in most cases, but in also some instances, it could not be heart related, could be to other infection, could be to kidney problem, and it could be to totally could be a blood clot in the lung. So not every troponin elevation is a heart attack, but it is suggestive of it, and we have to do further testing to see if it is or is not. Obviously, giving the proper clinical setting when people have risk factors and have symptoms of chest pressure, pain, or shortness of breath, and EKG changes along with the troponin elevation. So it has to be all interpreted in the right scenario. And then we can go and further to see, people ended up with, for instance, one of those presenting symptoms, either it's, what we call a heart attack or unstable angina, which precedes the heart attack. If you don't intervene on it by giving blood thinners and maybe do what's called cardiac catheterization, which is indicated in this unstable phase of the heart disease, not in the stable disease. In the unstable disease, where there is a very high likelihood of having a blood clot that's occluding the artery, then and on the top of a plaque, on a significant plaque that's narrowing the artery and obscuring the blood flow to that particular area of the heart subservient by this artery, then we go and do this cardiac catheterization to figure out what's happening to the arteries, and based on how blocked they are, then we can decide the therapy. 50% blockage or less, the medical therapy. 50 to 75, then we have to do further evaluation to see if it's warrants any further intervention, like a balloon angioplasty or a stent, that metal mesh that scaffolds the artery from inside and prevents its collapse, which is a problem in the good old balloon angioplasty, where we're just to put a balloon, blow it up in the vessel, and the artery get out. As soon as you get out, there's a chance of having possible recoil, where the arteries and narrowing comes back in a very high instance. But in the advent of this scaffolding technology with the stents, and I have been involved with that work before FDA approval back in the 90s, and that really have changed everything with this metal scaffolding that keep the artery open and keep the blood flow going. And then put a concept called local drug delivery, where you can have that part of the stent covered by a polymer or substance that prevents clogging from coming again. So these now the latest versions of drug-coated stents that stay open for a long time and prevent people from having repeated interventions. Sometimes the blockage could be severe enough that could need bypass surgeries where there's many arteries are blocked, and it's usually preferable in people who are diabetic over stent. This is shown from so many trials done on hundreds of thousands of patients. But really brings us back to one thing, which is you are what you eat. Giving the concept of the prevention. Angioplasty versus or stent in the stable coronary disease versus just a lifestyle modification like stop smoking, stop drinking, exercise regularly, treat the high blood pressure, the cholesterol, the diabetes, and stay active. You do that along with some certain medication like aspirin and cholesterol lowering medication will do the same outcome like if somebody had ended up with a stent. So now you can understand the huge economic difference in billions and billions that could be saved. Simply people adapt a healthy lifestyle. And this has been confirmed by trials, that the Courage trial back in 2007 and other trials like Orbita trial back in 2017. They compared people who have stents versus diet and exercise and simple intervention like aspirin and cholesterol lowering medication, and they had the same outcome. When they looked at people have eating just fresh fruits and vegetables and have this kind of healthy lifestyle versus the people who live in parts of the United States, and it's called deserts. The food deserts is basically places where there's no access to fresh fruits and vegetables, and it's loaded up with a lot of heavy dose carbohydrates and alcohol. And those 30 million Americans ended up being in hospitals because of various heart disease and cancers and so on. That we could just simply go into a very affordable, very healthy, fruits and vegetables and low calorie, high protein diet. And if someone cannot afford to have the fish or fish or chicken, they may go on to have some plant protein that will do them a lot of good. Finally, if somebody have risk factors, they may be ahead of a new technology called the CT angio, and I want everybody to know about it everywhere in the world, where you get a heart scan early if you're known to have risk factors. I remember when I mentioned first, I said the modifiable risk factors. Somebody said, well, I was born to family, all have heart disease. They all drop dead in their 40s and 30s because they had genetic high cholesterol and triglycerides. Well, those are the people who need to have this heart scan early and start them early on aspirin and cholesterol lowering medicine, because those people will have huge success in reducing the future heart attack by 50%. Simply when you put this heart scan and see what plaques they have. This is the replacement of invasive cardiac catheterization, where you go inside the body. This will give you the same images from outside so that you can plan your therapy and do it early in the game before having the damage. Because when people have a heart attack, their heart muscle is damaged, the pump is damaged, so it becomes weakened, and consequently that people develop congestive heart failure, which is worse than cancer. So I hope I summarized in a very quickly a journey of heart disease, how it's presented, the risk factors, how to diagnose it, prevent it, and to treat it successfully without going to high cost and high risk procedures and interventions, with getting basically accomplishing the same goal, which is live healthy and with no chest pain that will limit the daily activities, and then hopefully prolong longevity with a healthy lifestyle. So I'm gonna stop here, and if any one of the listeners would like to have questions related to that, I think that will be very helpful, because heart disease is still #1 killer in the world.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You very brilliantly summarized diagnosis, prevention, all the other stuff, But I want to ask you, do you have any treatment for a broken heart?
Very.
Is there something like broken heart? What is broken heart?
Yes. I'm so glad. Thank you. This was a different talk that I had actually for congestive heart failure. But yes, there is a syndrome called broken heart syndrome, usually happening in female, mostly predominantly females, almost 9 to 1 predominance, and they usually happen when some very tragic, intense event have taken place in their life: loss of a husband, a child, loss of something really, really very traumatic event have taken place. So they go into severe sadness and depression. And when you do a evaluation, and I didn't talk much about it, it's called echocardiogram. You'll see it's called apical cardiomyopathy. You will see the apex of the heart, which is the lower part of the heart that's supposed to be nicely pointed. In the normal heart becomes dilated and baggy, and because of that, there is disturbance in the pumping chamber of the heart. So the efficiency of the pumping chamber of the heart become reduced, and those ladies become very ill. For the again, mostly are ladies. They become very ill, and then they have very bad clinical picture of congestive heart failure, and they end up being an intensive care unit. They usually don't have concomitant significant coronary artery disease when they end up getting like heart catheterization, but the dysfunction or the abnormal heart muscle pumping capacity can persist. Luckily, most of them come out after a critical week or so, and then the heart start to kind of heal. But yes, when someone have a broken heart due to that, it's real, and we see it on the echocardiogram and also other imaging studies that will show that there is a part of the heart which affects the apex becomes very weak and dysfunctional and cannot pump. And because of that, patients go into trouble quickly with congestive heart failure. But you treat it as congestive heart failure with diuretics and ACE inhibitor and beta blockers. I don't want to go into that today, but this is a very, very nice question, and I appreciate you asking about it, because it happens a lot in ladies, because it's for unknown reasons. But this is the kind of demographics that relates to broken heart syndrome.
Well, I think that we got a lot of information all at once. I don't know how much of it we're going to be able to retain, but I tried to put up some images while you were talking, and hopefully it will help us to remember some of the things about this, because the last question by Dr. Sultan really got me, because I thought it was going to be like a joke or something, but when you said that this is a real thing, I'd like to just ask a question if I could.
Sure.
And I'm going to go ahead and ask it anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I love it.
But you mentioned about the women. Could men have a broken heart as well?
It's much less incidence in men. Yes, they can, because of grief. Some tragic events that have taken place in their life. Somebody lost their business. Somebody had went to bankruptcy. Somebody had So this is it's a temporary heart condition as a response to the stressful situation with extreme emotions involved in that. And the heart becomes basically ballooning of the apex of the heart. You look at it on the picture, and if you couldn't go and look at Google images of how the heart shape becomes so different with a broken heart, and then how to see it, and then kind of takes time to heal. And it's a fascinating disease. It's definitely real. It's definitely related to extreme emotional stress, and it causes weakening of the heart muscle. Remember, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "La tahzan." Don't be sad.
Yes.
Don't be sad, and because sadness weakens the heart. And this is what broken heart syndrome, and how the heart just turns into balloon, and it dilates and it becomes a very inefficient pumping for that part. And then but things happen in life. The grief of death, bad news, intense fear, and extreme anger, all these can lead to the broken heart syndrome. And it's luckily it's rare. It's less than 1%. But when it does happen, it throws people into congestive heart failure, predominantly in women, about 88% of time. So it's almost like 9 to 1, 9 ladies versus to 1 man. But again, the same precipitating factors, the same causation that takes place, and it kind of disrupts the heart completely. It throws the heart to become out of sync, and as a response to this extreme sadness and grief. But then, hopefully, people can have regular heartbeats, can get shortness of breath, fluid in the lungs, low blood pressure, have chest pains, and even without blockages. But it's just all these things could happen as a response, because the heart, it responds to what's happening in your life. Most people don't have blockage, and there are specific findings on certain testing, like the echocardiogram, like I mentioned, the sonogram of the heart, the MRI, and so on. And it's different from a heart attack, because the heart attack is definite damage and blockage, and it comes with a specific territory of the heart that's applied by a certain artery. But this broken heart syndrome, and I'm so glad Dr. Sultan asked about it. And what is the treatment? You go with certain medication, just like heart failure. You give him water pills, you give him medication to strengthen the heart muscle and prevent further dilatation of the heart muscle. And then you give him some medication to calm it down, like anti-anxiety medications, and then help him the relaxing techniques and so on. Because unfortunately, there are things can happen in stress. But in Islam, we also have something to rush to, which is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and meditation that will help in calming the stress and anxiety, and help relaxation, and help the healing, both physically and spiritual heart, with that. And then, of course, you're going to go and change your diet into Mediterranean diet. Remember, hummus, olive oil, all this, rich omega-3 fish oil, because it helps the healing of the heart. And you increase your physical activity and walking, and do a relaxation, breathing techniques and so on. And of course, ultimately, Allah, or God Almighty, will give the shifa, will give the healing to the broken heart. So that's in a nutshell. Dr. Sultan asked about a very fascinating disease.
Yes, I have seen one case, although it's not my field, but I see all sorts of chronic illnesses, so it happens. So just
was it a lady?
The lady, yeah.
Yeah, the lady. Most of the ladies.
Yeah. So that's why I brought it up, because there may be some in the audience who may have experienced that. Maybe not to the same extent or same degree as there's so many other people do, but just wanted to, for the records and people's awareness, that there is something, that sudden sadness, sudden episode of grief can put you into serious heart trouble.
So walking is a good thing, right?
Absolutely.
All right. And you mentioned the Mediterranean diet. You also referred particularly to the hummus. Talk about where does hummus actually come from?
Chickpeas. Hummus is the Arabic word for chickpeas. I'm sure everybody now knows what hummus is, because now there's hummus dip, that you can eat with crackers, and you can use it as an appetizer. It's a very low in calories, very high in protein. It's very, very nutritious, meal. And most of the hotels and catering halls now, they are starting to introduce the Mediterranean diet, not just for the heart, because it helps the high blood pressure, it helps the cholesterol, and it helps the people, ladies with weak bones, osteoporosis. So it's very, very beneficial. And when you control the blood pressure, lowering the blood pressure and so on, just by eating good food, along with other food that's rich in omega-3 fish oil, like olive oil and salmon. All these now becoming very, very hot item. Just like intermittent fasting, Mediterranean diet is the healthiest diet by all research papers. That if you want to eat and stay healthy, you're going to have to go and just do this as a habit to eat, Mediterranean diet that on regular basis that will have low salt, low cholesterol, low carbohydrates, and it lowers the chance of stroke. So this is I'm sure all the Mediterranean countries, they share the same kind of food. It lowers the risk of heart attacks, strokes, and death related to heart by 30%. That's how important. Extra virgin olive oil, nuts, beans, grains, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, potatoes, and these are all kind of poultry, fish, lean poultry, fish, seafood, dairy, and eggs. All these combined will be a great example of Mediterranean diet. And I'm glad now people are rushing to eat hummus, food that's rich in omega-3 fish oil like sardines, tuna.
Wait. We have a question. All right. The question is, do you have a hummus business on the side? This is a real question. You guys are in some kind of business promoting this good tasting, lovely. Any day by the way, when you're fasting, these pictures are really oh yeah. All right, they're telling us we got to wrap it all up. I guess what we should do right now is tell people what to do after we go off the air. We want them to what?
Eat.
No. We want them stay guided, right? Stay guided with
Guidance.
MashaAllah. Dr. Sultan, where are you?
Right here.
Okay.
Put both my hands up.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Well, you got to make noise, otherwise it won't. Yeah. There you go. Everybody, stay guided with
Guideus TV.
And Dr. Sultan. Salaam alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah. That was great. Really great.
You're watching The Newsroom, Islam Newsroom. The news you want. That's right, we're right across the river from Palestine, as a matter of fact, here in Aqaba. The new moon, the Hilal, has been sighted for the month of Shawwal.
When the adhan is called, it doesn't matter where you are. You go and you make your salah, alhamdulillah.
Now, I think this is something that inshallah ta'ala we'll all be able to benefit from.